Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Global Cleveland's 4th Annual Sister Cities Conference 2022. Our third and last day of the conference is focused on business and economic development. My name is Radhika Reddy. I'm the founder of multiple companies, Aerial Ventures, Aerial International Center, Aerial Economic Development Fund, Aerial Distribution Center, and few others, all 100% women-owned and minority firms. I'm also a board member of Global Cleveland, and I'm your host for this session. Firstly, I would like to thank you all for attending the conference and this session. Additionally, I would like to thank our sponsors and donors who have made Sister Cities Conference possible this year. Our sponsors are Eaton Corporation, Swagelog, Cleveland Hungarian Development Panel, the University of Akron, Rotary Club of Cleveland, Lithuanian American Community Cleveland Chapter, Slovenian Museum and Archives, the City of Cleveland, Cleveland Public Library. Today, we are fortunate to have a representative from Bangalore, India, to present the city highlights of Bangalore. Our presenter is Prashant Prakash, the founding partner of Axel India, and also chairman of the Vision Group for Startup Karnataka Government. He also serves as co-founder of ACT Grants, chairman of United Way, Sikshana Foundation, Krishi Kalpa Foundation. At Axel, his primary focus is online marketplaces, B2B, and SaaS. He has led the investment in 30 Indian technology startups and serves as a board member in 16 companies. He has led seed or early stage investments in category defining companies like Flipkart, Ola, Swiggy, Urban Company, Book My Show, and others. Thank you, Mr. Prakash, for joining us, and we look forward to your presentation. Please.
Thank you, Radhika.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure to be here and take you through a little bit of a tour of Bangalore as a business city, and it's an honor to be a sister city with Cleveland. So I will just start sharing my screen.
Yes.
And get started with that. So can you see my screen, Radhika?
Yes, I can. Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so I'll probably take about 35-40 minutes for my presentation, and then hopefully have a little bit of a discussion with you, Radhika, or if there are any questions from the audience. Bangalore is a young city in some sense, because I think unlike a lot of the other cities which were formed by the British or many centuries ago by various rulers 300, 400, 500, 600 years ago. Really, most of Bangalore in its current shape or form is really less than 100 years old. And in this period, we have become a very vibrant and a very forward-looking and a dynamic city. So I will today talk a little bit on the innovation story of Bangalore. How did Bangalore, a sleepy retirement paradise? I mean, that's what it was in the early 70s, and people would actually come to Bangalore to retire, and so it was one of the cities that you would just go buy a small house and then spend your last 15, 20 years or 30 years of your life. A little bit like, I guess, what Florida is for a lot of people in the US. And it's in the early 80s that the Infosys story started, which was basically the first outsourcing company to start operating in Bangalore. Outsourcing, for a lot of you folks that may or may not know, is the process where US companies in the 80s started using the technical resources available in India to do some of their IT and technology work and in outsourced level, right? So that's how and that started in Bangalore in India. So the India had no outsourcing or no technology resources before that. So it all started in Bangalore. Then fast forward 10, 20 years, uh, Bangalore went from just being an outsourcing city to being an R&D hotspot. And then fast forward another 10 years, today is the technology hotspot for Asia and also known as the Silicon Valley of Asia. So I'll take you a little bit through each of these. The first American company to set up in Bangalore was Texas Instruments. And they wanted to start their first center outside the US. And they had a small team that went around and looked at, Singapore, looked at, Hong Kong and maybe a few other places, and finally said, you know what, maybe they like the weather in Bangalore, and that's what Bangalore is really famous for. We have, arguably the best weather in the world, right? So that's how Texas Instruments decided to make Bangalore their home outside the US and started their first campus in the 80s in Bangalore. This was then followed by multiple other companies, and I'll really talk about where Bangalore is today, coming to when it comes to outsourcing. But while we had some of these large US corporations and technology companies set up in Bangalore, some of the new age companies in the US also started setting up in India. So India went through a transformation in terms of cell phone, mobile phones. So we went from a country which had less than 10 million laptops or digital devices to today a country where we have close to 500 to 600 million people with smartphones. So pretty much you can think of it as every Indian having a laptop like capability with them. So that's when a lot of the US companies started creating equivalent companies in India to be able to tap the Indian market. And you also had Indian companies like Flipkart, which started in Bangalore, which is like Amazon in the US, get started, and Zomato, which is like DoorDash, and Ola, which is like Uber. So you started seeing a lot of entrepreneurs in Bangalore start creating. And the reason this happened in Bangalore is because Amazon had already set up their back office in Bangalore. And you had uh, these entrepreneurs who were working in Amazon, um, serving and building the product for Amazon in the US, but saw an opportunity to kind of build an Amazon for India, because India did not have the same kind of e-commerce capability in the early 2000. So this is about 2005, 2006. So you had multiple companies set up their back offices in India, but ultimately Indian entrepreneurs took advantage of the knowledge of serving the US companies in their back office and started the Indian versions of these companies in India, and that largely started in Bangalore. So Bangalore was the place where a lot of these companies got seated. So today, where are we when it comes to startups in Bangalore? So we have about 30 to 40,000 startups in India, and almost 40 to 50% of those startups are in Bangalore. And for some of you who might not have heard the term unicorn, A unicorn is a company that has over $1 billion in valuations, and we have 40 such companies in Bangalore. The per capita income in India is about, the average is about $3,000, but the per capita income in Bangalore is more like $11,000. But the big um, statistic on this page is more than 400 of the Fortune 500 companies have some office or some way in which they are tapping into Bangalore as a city. So we are pretty much the back office or the engine that drives technology, R&D, and the digital future for a lot of these Fortune 500 companies. In terms of as a tech cluster, we are the fourth largest tech cluster in the world after, and I think we are now number three. We are number three after Silicon Valley and Shenzhen in China. I think Bangalore is the third largest tech cluster in the world. So I spoke about the GCCs already, but what we are seeing is that GCC stands for Global Competency Center, where um, a company like Walmart, for example, or a company like Shell runs their R&D there, and Shell global R&D is based out of Bangalore. So so this was a company that moved their entire global GE. A lot of GE's global R&D runs out of Bangalore. So we are that way a hub for a lot of innovation and future technology that gets built here in the city for the rest of the world. In terms of just the different sectors of businesses in Bangalore, so it's not just one sector. So we are the e-commerce capital of India, the fintech. So a lot of you would have heard of Mumbai. So Mumbai was the financial capital of India till maybe a decade ago. But we are starting to see with digitization, and I think you would have heard about the India stack and Aadhaar and UPI, which are digital ways in how people are transacting now with each other in India using the mobile phone. So we have gone from a country that was had pretty much no digital transactions to now we are doing almost 1 billion transactions, digital transactions every week in India. And most of those transactions happen from Bangalore. So just like you have Robinhood in the US, you have Zerodha. Just like you would have Stripe in the US, you have Razorpay. So and like you would have Tesla, we have Ola Electric and Ether. So for pretty much every vertical, the leading company is based out of Bangalore. So I'll just skip the slide. There are two things that really make up an ecosystem, right? The quality of entrepreneurs that you have, and then the supply of capital in the ecosystem. India has a demographic where you have almost 60-70% of the population less than 30-35 years old. So you have a lot of young talent in the country who are well educated. You would have heard of the IITs and some of the other institutions that are world class. So they nurture talent that is capable of building great startups and becoming great entrepreneurs. So we do have the right raw material when it comes to talent. The next component that you require to build a great startup ecosystem is venture funds and angel funds and incubators and accelerators and corporate venture funds. So in all these areas, I think we have among the most vibrant uh, um, uh, set of companies. So we have almost 431 venture funds. So you have global funds like Accel, Sequoia, Matrix, Lightspeed. A lot of the top Valley venture funds have their offices, and I lead Accel. I co-lead Accel, the Accel Venture Fund here in Bangalore, and we have made about 300 odd investments and manage about $2.5 billion of venture funding from the city here of Bangalore. And Sequoia manages almost $8 billion in venture funding from Bangalore. But what's even more interesting is the number of angel investors we have in Bangalore. So a lot of ex-entrepreneurs have become angel investors. So we have close to uh, four and a half thousand angel investors in Bangalore and many venture funds. We are also home to the best talent. So globally, we have US today leading, especially the Valley. So with about 5 million software engineers in the US, just Bangalore has about 2 million, I think, or 2.5 million software engineers. And India as a country would almost have 5 to 6 million software engineers. Um, we add almost 1 million engineers every year to the talent pool within the country, and about 33 to 40% of the talent pool comes from Bangalore. And the statistic that I was just talking about, and 70% of them are less than 35 years old. So there is a very broad spectrum of this talent within the city. So you have very young talent, which is just out of college, less than 3 years old. A good mix of talent in the 3 to 5 years and 5 to 10 years old, and also senior talent. So if you need to build world-class companies, and if you need to attract the best global companies to come to Bangalore, you need senior talent. And we have a good mix of about 25% of the talent being in the 10 plus years of experience. And this talent is in areas that are very cutting edge and emerging, such as AI. So AI is today the foundation for all great startups, and AI is the innovation story when it comes to any sector globally. And we have about 31,000 such AI professionals based in Bangalore. And in addition to that, about 2.5 lakh, 2.5, 250,000 data scientists, and 450 plus research labs. And these research labs are either corporate research labs or research labs that are part of universities. But what is even more interesting is there is more than $2 billion plus that has been invested in startups, in AI startups in Bangalore. In the areas of R&D, research and development, Bangalore is very diverse. So we have, like I said, I will also I mentioned data science and artificial intelligence and IoT as a big area. But we have R&D hubs in Bangalore for the agri space, animation and visual arts, aerospace, machine learning and robotics, cybersecurity, and semiconductor design. So in pretty much every high-tech and emerging area that you can think of, we have an R&D center of, we call these as center of excellences. So these are hubs that nurture talent for these specialized areas. So you can deploy so that this talent can be deployed in various labs and various corporations. The other interesting phenomena is that from these startups, so like I mentioned, we have about 15,000 startups, but these startups actually are the founders of these startups come from existing startups. So if you look at a startup like Ola, which was, like I mentioned, the Uber of India, there are about 3,000 plus startups that have come out of people who have worked in Ola. So there is a virtuous cycle where you have some of these startups that start spawning multiple new startups within the city. So you could see a situation where in the next 5 to 10 years, we could have from the 15,000 startups that we have in Bangalore today, you could have 30 to 40,000 or even 50,000 startups in Bangalore over the next decade. And on the right, you see which areas are getting funded. Um, Consumer, enterprise, retail, health tech are some of the vibrant, deep tech are some of the vibrant areas, and including fintech that are getting funded in Bangalore. The government of Karnataka, and so Karnataka is the state, the Indian state in which you have Bangalore, and it's Karnataka is one of the most progressive states in the country. We attract the largest amount of foreign investments into the country, and there are a lot of collaborative relationships between Karnataka and multiple countries and multiple states globally. But what is important is how easy is it to do business in Karnataka and Bangalore. So there are a multiple set of policies that have been incubated, or these multiple policy initiatives within Bangalore. One which is, there is a separate fund set up to encourage gender diversity and have more women come into the entrepreneurial ecosystem. We also have a new age incubation network policy that encourages entrepreneurship in colleges and universities within Bangalore. We encourage IP development by encouraging people to create new patents, and the government reimburses these patents. And then we have one of the largest grants for early startups. So 50 to $100,000 is given every year to about 200 to 200 startups as a grant, as a non-dilutive grant within Bangalore to encourage new startups. The other interesting organization that we have, and this is an organization that could potentially collaborate with an equivalent organization in Cleveland. This is like the EDB in Singapore, if some of you are familiar with the Economic Development Board. The Karnataka Digital Economy Mission is a collaborative organization between the private sector and the government, which encourages innovation and startup activity, talent development, and development of the IT sector within the state. And there are a lot of collaborations that exist between Bangalore and Tel Aviv and Bangalore and different cities globally. So potentially, the Karnataka Digital Economy Mission could be a vehicle to catalyze collaboration between Cleveland and Bangalore. The other interesting phenomena of Bangalore is that Bangalore has been an early adopter ecosystem, because as a city, we have the average age of an individual in Bangalore is 25 to 27 years old. So you can imagine it's mostly Gen Z and millennials in Bangalore. So if you wanted to start a new product, and not only for Bangalore, but if you wanted to start a new product for any emerging economy, the emerging economy could be in Brazil, could be Indonesia, Jakarta in Indonesia, could be Singapore. So for any of these economies, when you want to start a new product, you would first test it or trial it in Bangalore. So it's like a sandbox where you can trial a new product or test a new product in Bangalore, and then it would probably, hopefully, be able to scale and work in other cities across the world, in cities that are in most emerging countries, whether it is the Middle East, Egypt, Africa, and many other countries. So it is a little bit like a incubator where you can test new ideas and then take it to the rest of the world. Finally, I'll talk a little bit about the education opportunities. We have more than 100 universities or engineering colleges graduating up to 90,000 engineers. And we have among the couple, the Indian Institute of Science has produced Nobel laureates before. And we have some of the best medical colleges in Bangalore. So this is another area where we should potentially have exchange programs between Bangalore and Cleveland, where we could have students from Bangalore spend time in Cleveland, and students from Cleveland spend time in Bangalore. Also, it is a great city for expats. It was rated among the top 6 emerging cities for expats, as in for folks from other countries to come and make Bangalore their home for a short period of time. So the other cities were Singapore, I think Hong Kong, Sydney, and I'm just missing a few other names. But Bangalore was among the top 5 or 6 cities where expats could very easily come and settle down and make it their home because of the great quality of healthcare, it being an extremely safe city. There's absolutely no violence, no very safe for people to walk in downtowns, and extremely safe for women. So, and of course, most importantly, it is rated as the world's fastest growing city for the next 15 years. So the number one fastest city in the world for the next 15 years in terms of how fast Bangalore is growing. So, like I mentioned, this is a city of new beginnings. It is like the Silicon Valley, a land of opportunities. When somebody wants to do something innovative in the US, they move to the Valley, or they move to, in these days, Austin, Texas, or some of these other cities. So very similarly, Bangalore is where you would move if you wanted to do your next startup and trial your new idea, or build the next product for your corporation or your MNC or even a smaller company. There's another interesting initiative we are doing called Unboxing Bangalore. So this is an initiative where we are saying that, you know what, we in Bangalore know a lot about the city, and hopefully through programs like what we see today with the Sister Cities program, you will have a lot of other folks also know about Bangalore. But can we make this more like a platform? So the idea of Unboxing Bangalore is to create a platform, and this platform has multiple components. There is a book that talks about the history of Bangalore. How did we get transformed from a sleepy pensioner's paradise, like I mentioned, to one of the technology hotspots in the world. Then we'll probably have a fictional documentary on Netflix or Amazon Prime or one of these platforms to which, and hopefully next year you will get to see that no matter where you're in this world. And just like you have the innovation museum in Israel and you have an innovation museum in the Silicon Valley, we want to do an innovation museum in Bangalore. So the idea is to uh, help not only students and other curious citizens of Bangalore understand how Bangalore has become an innovation capital, but other folks who can either virtually visit the museum or visiting Bangalore can experience the innovation journey of Bangalore. And finally, an interactive digital platform which will have content and blogs and many other such things to experience the city. So thank you. I think I've just taken about 30 minutes. So if there are any questions, happy to answer and clarify and tell you more about Bangalore. And Radhika, if you have any other questions on Bangalore or the city, I think I've covered multiple areas, but happy to answer any other questions.
Sure. Yeah, we can take questions from the audience, but I'm seeing some Q&A online. One of the attendees has asked, as you have discussed, Bangalore is a leader in India's tech sector. Are there any other business or economic sectors that you can see Bangalore becoming a national or international leader in over the next few decades?
Yeah, so I think technology is definitely, and multiple aspects of technology, like I mentioned, Radhika, from space tech to fintech to agri-tech. There is a wide range of areas. The other area that we are starting to see a lot of new entrepreneurs in Bangalore is in the areas of craft and culture. There is, as you're aware, India is home to multiple types of crafts, and these crafts are in some sense getting lost. So you have entrepreneurs who are building these clusters in these rural areas where they're trying to create new design interventions to revive some of these crafts and give new hope and new opportunities to these craft clusters in various parts of India. And hopefully the idea is that they find new markets for these crafts that were either forgotten or would have died otherwise if there was no entrepreneurial innovation or intervention in these areas. The other question that I see here is for individuals coming from other countries, right? What are the other opportunities, right? While there is a lot of young talent, so the other big opportunity is in healthcare. So Bangalore is home to also the medical tourism industry. So you have a lot of folks from Africa, from other Middle East countries, and some parts of Asia, Southeast Asia, like Bangladesh, Pakistan, actually come to Bangalore for their medical treatment. So we have a lot of global medical talent and doctors who come and practice in Bangalore and are able to find very interesting. What's interesting is that you have a very diverse set of patients because you have people from across the globe come and get their treatments in Bangalore. Young medical professionals would really get a very interesting experience set because of the diversity of uh, the patients in the hospitals in Bangalore, and also the use of emerging technologies for healthcare. So you would also get to uh, experiment and try with new medical technologies and the use of artificial intelligence in healthcare and so on. So not only would you get to experience a very diverse set of uh, patients, but you would also be able to leverage some of the latest medical technologies. Finally, the other question here is what are some of the things that people can do? And so one big thing that people can do in Bangalore is visit not too far from Bangalore is a biodiversity hotspot. So in addition to a technology hotspot, we have a biodiversity hotspot just a couple hours from Bangalore where you can see tigers in the wild and elephants in the wild. There are very few places in the world that you can so close to a major city or a major metro also see. Um, um, and I will share a video later which talks about all the wildlife that is in some sense driving distance, with a few hours of drive from Bangalore. So for all you wildlife enthusiasts, this is a great place to come and experience wildlife just like you would do in Africa. Uh, I think there is a question on food, right? So, people invariably are familiar with a lot of food from the northern parts of India, which is what is more popular in terms of cuisine. When you go to an Indian restaurant in the US, I think what you typically experience is cuisine from the northern parts. There is not a lot of southern cuisine that you get to experience um, in the US. And Bangalore is a melting pot. So you have uh, about 60% of people in Bangalore are not from Bangalore. They are either from the northern part or they're from Kerala, Andhra Pradesh, which is where Radhika is from, Hyderabad, or Tamil Nadu. And some of the best vegetarian food and vegan food is very popular these days. So some of the best vegan food that you can find is and vegetarian food is in Bangalore. So I would highly recommend you experiment with multiple types of cuisine, and all of these would be very unique and novel because you would not find them in any parts, most parts of the US or in most US cities.
Now, most of this young talent, are they coming from within India or from other countries too? Somebody asked that.
Oh, yes. So most of the talent, Radhika, is from India.
Yeah.
It is, like I mentioned very recently, that um, um, so there's two parts. One, you have a lot of these global corporations who have offices in Bangalore. Now, in these global corporations, you do have a lot of talent that is global because they need to spend time in their office in Bangalore, and they relocate temporarily, maybe for 6 months, 12 months. They relocate to Bangalore. So if you're an employee in Goldman Sachs or Morgan Stanley or Walmart in the US, you probably would spend a little bit of time in Bangalore. If you're have anything to do with technology, because most of your projects have team members in Bangalore. So there is a lot of expat talent that shifts to Bangalore for short periods of time. So if any of you are in any large company in the US, I would urge you to explore if you could, through the company, uh, visit for your project in Bangalore or work with the extended team here in Bangalore, because guaranteed, if you have technology in your company, you would be doing something in Bangalore. Now, the second part is, do we have a lot of expats or people from other countries in our universities and who work in other Indian companies? I think that is small. I would say it is probably less than 10%. So more than 90% of the individuals who work in companies or in universities. But it's changing, and I would urge you to explore again the um, opportunity to work in a startup in Bangalore. And some of the hot areas are user experience design, graphic design, AI. Of course, AI engineers are very much in demand in the US. So probably, but product designers, user experience designers, graphic designers, all of these, and like I also mentioned, people in healthcare, they are in big demand here in Bangalore, and you should uh, tap the opportunity to come and spend maybe a year or 2 year, especially when you're young.
Yeah. Now, with the global downturn, because of the COVID, inflation, the war, how has it affected the economy in Bangalore or India? Just overall, what is your perspective on the impact of this recent problems all over the world? Yeah.
Let me start with COVID, because I
Yeah.
think that's what we went through for 2 years. One big uh, uh, opportunity or a challenge Bangalore had was that Bangalore was managing most of the IT technology for global banks, global financial institutions, the back office for a lot of global hospitals. So Bangalore had a challenge. You had COVID, you could not go to work, you had to be indoors, but at the same time, you had to keep the lights on, so to speak, for a lot of these global companies on very basic a very basic infrastructure that kept these companies running. So it was quite a challenge, and I think a lot of whether it was Citibank or Goldman Sachs, they lived up to their challenge in Bangalore, and they would uh, they were able to keep a lot of their systems, global systems, operational because of the ability of managing some of this even through COVID. The, the second big initiative that really worked for India is vaccination of billions of people. So more than um, you know uh, hundreds of millions of Indians were vaccinated, and not just one dose, but 3 doses in one of the largest vaccination programs anywhere in the world. So, which would mean that we are totally operational, and everybody's back to work. Of course, you have the whole remote working culture that has got set in, like many other places rest of the world. So not everybody wants to come back and work to home. It's not because of COVID, but they're just so comfortable working from wherever. So the remote working or work from home has become a big difference in terms of culture in Bangalore. Now, when it comes to inflation and the economy, I think we are doing pretty good. We have uh, not faced the same kind of inflation that the US has faced. Maybe things would change in the next 6 months or 1 year. Maybe there is a lag effect, but today uh, we have had only a marginal increase in our inflation. And because of the challenges with the war, we are dependent mostly on global oil. We have very little domestic crude and gasoline capabilities within the country. And just like any other city, Bangalore is dependent on oil from the Gulf, or oil was dependent on oil from Russia or other countries. So we were impacted by the war, and they had to find alternative sources for energy, and energy was more expensive than before. So there has been some inflation even in India, and but it's mostly driven by energy costs and not many other costs. But the good news is India and Bangalore is a domestic consumption driven economy. Um, and so we are not so dependent on exports. So which would mean that even if there are challenges in China, there are challenges in the US with less exports, less imports from the US, and a lot of global trade issues, they're impacting India and Bangalore less than many other countries, because we are more a domestic consumption economy and not really dependent on global trade to some extent. But the last thing I'd like to talk about is, why is it a great time for Bangalore and for Karnataka and India? So there is a lot of global shift in wanting to have what is called as a China plus one strategy, where in addition to doing business with China, they would also like to do some portion of their business, because of having a backup to challenges like COVID that may come up in future. So you don't want to depend just on one country. So Bangalore and Karnataka and India, which were mostly services driven economy, uh, we are now becoming more also a manufacturing hub for a lot of the countries, where in addition to China, they're also sourcing from India and sourcing from Bangalore. So this is a great opportunity to also have trade with different companies in Cleveland, or different companies in the larger state of Ohio.
Yes. There's a question here. What should Cleveland and Bangalore focus on to make sister cities relationships stronger? Also, I'm the founder of India Ohio Chamber of Commerce. So if we brought a trade mission from Cleveland, definitely from what your presentation, health tech, IT sector, biotech, that seems like Cleveland strong on Internet of Things. Bangalore and Cleveland seem to have a lot of synergies from your presentation. Just to give an update to the group as to what would be the best areas to focus on between Cleveland and Bangalore to strengthen the sister cities.
Yeah, so the good news here is, Radhika, that we have a trade mission, like I mentioned, KEDM, Karnataka Digital Economy Mission, which is based in Bangalore, which can facilitate such a trade mission, right? So you have a dedicated organization that can collaborate, work on areas of synergy, curate the visit, make sure that on the Bangalore side, there are enough aligned organizations or enough aligned meetings for it to be a fruitful mission. Similarly, they could do the reverse to Cleveland. That is one area. The other area I personally feel we should explore is startups. I think because we are the startup capital for Asia, I think there could be a lot of benefits for startups in Cleveland to visit Bangalore, and we could facilitate that to see what's happening in a highly digitized economy like India, where, like I mentioned, whether it comes to financial transactions, the mobile phone penetration, in many areas, we are leading the rest of the world. So it will give them an experience of what the emerging world could look like, the rest of the world could look like 5-10 years ago. So Bangalore would kind of be a little bit of a microcosm for the rest of the world. And this would be a great experience for businesses and for startups to come and experience. And similarly, happy to explore startups or businesses that could visit Cleveland in some of the areas that are synergistic.
So thank you very much for your presentation. It's really been fantastic, very enlightening, especially for me. I was in international banking in India, and then with the India Ohio Chamber, really looking forward. Hopefully after this meeting, it can result in some back and forth trade missions between Cleveland and Bangalore. So truly appreciate the fantastic insight. And the hub for innovation is really fantastic. So I think there's a lot of synergy. And
yes,
thank
Radhika,
you again.
and yeah, I'll just mention that we are sister cities from what I heard from 1975. So this is a very long, mature relationship, but we need to reignite it and kind of rekindle it and reinvigorate it. So look forward to doing that. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you. Thank you, Prashant. In conclusion, we have reached the time to wrap up the session. Thank you to our presenters for their time and for providing information to our audience about City of Bangalore. Thank you to the audience for your attention. Once again, many thanks to all our sponsors and donors who made this conference and panel possible. Our sponsors are Eaton Corporation, SwageLock, Cleveland Hungarian Development Panel, the University of Akron, Rotary Club of Cleveland, Lithuanian American Community Cleveland Chapter, Slovenian Museum and Archives, the City of Cleveland, Cleveland Public Library. Thank you again. After the session, we have two more panels, the Ports panel and the Global Entrepreneur in Residence panel. I hope you will join us for those panels as well. Our day is full of interesting sessions with topics focused on business and economic development. Please enjoy the rest of the conference. And thank you, Prashant, again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hopefully we'll see you soon in a trade mission.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Radhika. Thank you for hosting.
Thank you.